Yeah, so we're started. Thank you everyone for coming. It's probably best now to save disruption. If people that aren't sat around tables, if you could kind of gravitate towards the table now, if that's okay, just to save hassle. This is going to be a bit of a interactive paper / workshop sort of situation. So please bear with. It's quite an informal talk compared to a lot of the other ones. And yeah, more than anything, it's just a bit of yeah, food for thought, fun. So yeah, I think if everyone's just wait for a second. Everyone's comfy. We'll start. So yeah, this is going to kind of follow the same trajectory as my PhD normally does. So I'll ramble for a bit, have a bit of chat, and then we'll do some fun arts and crafts. And I think that's kind of now my normal sort of rundown. So we'll start with a little bit of story time. So last month I went on holiday with my family to Krakow in Poland. On the final day of our trip, we were walking, heading to the shopping centre to kind of get our last bits and bobs, food for the plane and any last sort of cheap deal shopping sort of things. Whilst we were on the way to this shopping centre, I saw on Google Maps that there was an abandoned World War II bunker that the Nazis had kind of built very temporarily as the Soviets sort of were coming, infiltrating Poland to try and liberate it. And of course, naturally, me, nerdy, was like, I'd like to go see that. So in classic Molloy fashion, my mum and my brother carry on to the shops. They're not interested. Me and my dad wander down. And we finally managed to find this World War II bunker. So we start going down towards it as we spot it in the distance. And we get closer and closer to the bunker. Obviously, it just looks like a pretty standard structure at the moment. Now, as we head to the corner, it's going to become a bit more visible, but we noticed that there's some cardboard in what would be like the lookout post or a window, in other terms. Again, didn't really think anything of it. I'm on holiday, trying to sort of shut down and not be in work mode. And then again, on the window around the front, there's cardboard. Now, me being not really with it, continues all the way around until, I'm not sure if many of you can see, it's a very small piece of material. I see this, which is a bed liner and a cardboard cup. And essentially what I quickly realised is that this building is actually occupied by someone, probably a rough sleeper. It's providing this temporary accommodation. Now, for those that don't know, this directly resonates with my research because I look at how we can utilise archaeology to challenge attitudes towards modern day homelessness. And so, yeah, I found this quite confounding and confronting that this was a position where, you know, archaeology was literally serving a homeless person who was rough sleeping. I tried to make myself known. It didn't seem to be anyone there, but, you know, just out of protection and even the peace of that individual, I did not explore any further. So those are the only photographs that we've got. But yeah, nevertheless, this stuck with me the whole day, sort of this, you know, immediate confrontation of archaeology and heritage sites and those experiencing homelessness. And then I started to think about, you know, well, how many other heritage buildings are out there that we don't know about or do know about that are being utilised by rough sleepers or, you know, used as temporary accommodation for other things. I mean, we think about it a lot with non-humans, you know, animals then inhabited abandoned houses, but, you know, in this ever-growing housing crisis, is there a level of relevance with heritage sites in this housing issue? And so I started to think about this, and then, you know, whilst on the way to the airport doing my research, started looking at the website in the UK specifically, which is Save Britain's Heritage. It sounds quite Brexit Bobby, but it actually isn't as bad as it seems. And Save is quite an awesome campaign. They're a registered charity, and they were, as it says on the board, formed in 1975. They advocate for, you know, decaying and decrepit buildings, so country houses, churches, chapels, disused mills and warehouses, any sort of element of the built environment in the UK. This company or charity kind of recognise this, and they aim to kind of build public awareness on the position of these buildings, obviously encourage preservation or campaigns around it, and try and ultimately, as the name suggests, save the different heritage sites across the country. So And funnish fact, they helped campaign for the 30-year rule, which made post-war buildings in England and Wales eligible for listing within historic England's listing legislation. So they are actually quite effective in their campaigns. They also have the electronic register of at-risk buildings, quite a comprehensive sort of site that is a really useful resource in terms of looking at these heritage buildings and what's actually around us in our cities and towns. So I'm now following the story. I'm at the airport departures lounge. As you remember, it was the last day I discovered all of this. I'm messaging the conference organising committee, you know, frantically working out the deadline for everyone else to submit their abstract. And I still didn't have one. So I'm dealing with all the pressures of that, reading all this. And then it finally came to me, eureka, free real estate. So I am joking here a little bit, but on a very serious note, returning back to what I work on, we actually do face a real housing and homeless crisis in this country that is only getting exponentially worse. Even in the short time of my PhD journey, the numbers have risen sharply in terms of rough sleeping and experiencing homelessness. So for argument's sake, Christmas Day in 2023, so Christmas just passed, we had over 300,000 people experiencing homelessness in some form. That's actually a rise of 14% in 1 year alone, which is actually, I didn't realise how much the rise was. It's astonishing and it's quite scary, to be honest. And this trend does not seem to be ceasing anytime soon. But yeah, so not only is this kind of the cause that's close to my heart, it is an ever-growing, visible crisis in this country that we are facing. And I think it's even more poignant when we're touched with the fact that anyone is only 3 paychecks away from experiencing homelessness in some form. So although you may not feel directly impacted, I do implore you to start to consciously sort of consider these sorts of issues in itself as we go into election year. On top of homelessness, we also have around 1.5 million adequate houses shortage. So that's how many we need roughly on average shelter have worked out. And the way they believe this could be possible is by building at least 90,000 additional social housing places per year, just continuously. There's no end sight in that. Now, the issue that we have with this is the government typically favours right to buys or a higher rent and private market, which means that the social housing market is getting further constrained, exacerbating the case of those experiencing homelessness and causing the whole rental market to inflate on a whole. So it is quite a serious issue. So even though I'm joking free real estate, I think there could be actually really viable sort of avenues to consider in this workshop sort of presentation we're doing. On top of it, back to heritage, because that's where we focus, we know that the act of reusing or repurposing existing buildings is actually really beneficial for several factors. Obviously, one, it maintains and keeps that building in existence. That can allow to some level of protection on the historical character or significance or setting of that building. It can then rejuvenate the actual image of a place or the specific heritage site itself. The example I'm showing here is a regeneration project of the Bombay Sapphire. Oh, how do I go back? Mill distillery, which was originally a woolen mill site that has now been changed into a distillery, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous, to be honest. And then also sort of very fundamental facts, sort of that this promotes a sustainable design, which is more energy efficient and reduces environmental impact by us reusing and repurposing these buildings. So, with the last 10 minutes that we've got, I'm going to be setting you all this short activity, which is why you're on the table you are. So the activity is working with the people around you as a group, pick one of the case studies, or if you'd rather think of your own, that's fine. I'll be sharing the case study shortly. And make a plan to repurpose the site into something valuable for the housing crisis. Now, this can be exactly whatever you want. I'm not scripting it. If you think it could just be, a regeneration project into new housing, or it could be something more specific, like a social welfare avenue, a job centre, a soup kitchen, any of these sorts of things, it's completely up to you. Some of the different things you may find is also doing a heritage management plan. So how can you preserve this site for further use? You have complete freedom of being hypothetical. I don't have the money to fund this, so it's not actually going to happen. But yeah, you can be as creative and as imaginative as you want, or quite realistic and kind of follow listing policies and procedures. But yeah, so we're going to spend the next 10 minutes doing this basically. I'm going to hand out some nice pens and colours, and I hope you find it interesting. For those of you that are online, we're also going to be sharing the case studies online, and if there's enough of you, we'll break you up into breakout rooms. But feel free to go along with this on your own as well if you prefer. So yeah, thank you. Do a couple to doodle on. I promise the colour stuff is just Play-Doh. I promise. So sorry. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Right, I'm really sorry to interrupt the conversations, if they can round up. I'm really sorry, we have had just a short time slot today, but just walking around the conversation is really great, and I'd be interested to hear all your ideas. I wish I had time for you all to come and present them and continue with this. But hopefully this has just kind of been a bit of food for thought to like get you to start considering the other ways that heritage can serve the public in very material and literal ways. We are kind of having to scuffle out because there is a meeting in this room over lunchtime. But I guess just to round up, yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the money to action any of these ideas, as lovely as they are. Someone wins the lottery, please feel free to send it my way. I hope you've enjoyed this creative activity and just a little bit of a break from the normal sort of talking through things, but exploring these alternative sort of ways to approach heritage. As much as it was a hypothetical activity, I also hope that it is also a more poignant message. You know, the housing crisis is a real issue in this country. And yeah, I think it's always important for us to advocate for social welfare policy and better housing policies within the public. This year has been very sort of harsh in terms of statistics. We found out that 55 children over the past 4 years have died in temporary accommodation through the state of being homeless. The Tories sharing the rhetoric of British houses for British people, but simultaneously not filling the housing shortage. And the criminal justice bill that could be coming through this year will make the act of rough sleeping a criminal offence. And so there's all these things circling around at the moment. So I really want to kind of just show you that this really is a poignant and significant year, especially with election and stuff, not to push politics, but to consider our unhoused neighbours, as the Americans call it, or just other members of our civilization and society. So yeah, as always, I will be collecting donations if anyone has anything. I know the weather is warming up a little bit, but people are still outside in these extremities. So any waterproofs, any bedding or anything, I will circulate in that to rough sleepers and the emergency housing shelter that I work at as well. But yeah, thank you very much for participating. Yes. I think it's brilliant. I would love to. I just am a pauper. Can you imagine? I think maybe this is something I've thought about a lot. I think maybe kind of collaborating with that Save Britain's Heritage, because they do have this expansive information and knowledge on the actual state of buildings. Obviously, working with Historic England and local planning groups is always useful as well. I think it's, yeah. Uh-huh. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks. But yes, thank you all for coming this morning. We'll now skedaddle off to lunch. I think we're all going to kind of rendezvous on the first floor of Charles Wilson, so we can all hang out, continue conversations, and if anyone has any residual questions, feel free to share them then. But thank you for coming to this morning's part. It's 12:30 now. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we're going to be back around 2 o'clock-ish. The official afternoon schedule doesn't kick off until 2:30, but we will have a pre-recorded presentation as well. So, yeah.